I just want to know why so many people feel get disconnected from their food. I want to know why people feel disconnected from where their food actually comes from the seasons, disconnected from the people who grow their food, disconnected from the traditions that surround a home cooked meal. We have so much food available to us in the United States. At any given moment, we have convenience, and yet somehow so many of us feel further removed from our food than we ever have before. And I think part of the answer actually lies in what happened when convenience took over, which was in the 1930s. It's not because convenience is bad, but it's because every single gain comes with some sort of a trade-off. So what is the trade-off that we have made for this convenience culture? Sometimes we don't even realize what we've traded until it's gone. I have been doing deep dives on getting back to the basics, getting back to the way that we used to live, the way that our great-grandparents lived, doing things the old-fashioned way. And what I've found is that we've started to lose those skills. Convenience solves problems. For most of human history, food required an enormous amount of effort. People grew it, they preserved it, they prepared it, and they spent so much of their day ensuring that they would have food on the table for their families and enough of it for tomorrow. Modern technology has changed all of that. Prepared foods allow us to not spend our time making meals from scratch any longer. And for busy families, that's a total win. But what I can tell you is that it means there's less time in the kitchen. There's more time spent at work. There's more time spent at school. There's more time for everything else except learning these fundamental skills. So in many ways, changes have always improved our lives, but somewhere along the way, we have lost the ability to care for ourselves. We've lost the ability to feed ourselves, to know where to source food if anything were to happen and the grocery store shelves were to be empty. And because it has become so much easier, it has become much less meaningful to the average everyday person who lives in the United States. I'm not talking about in other places of the world. I'm talking about in the United States specifically. When convenience became the priority, we also lost some things that once connected us to food in a much deeper way, the traditions, the values, the integrity behind what we made from scratch and what we made with our hands. There was a time when people understood seasons through food. They knew what season it was because of what they were harvesting out of the ground. For example, strawberries. We know that strawberries are only available in the first part of spring. They're not available in the fall and the winter. Tomatoes, when we think of a tomato, we look forward to summer. We look forward to July because we know it is the peak of heat. We're going to get this bright, beautiful, acidic sugar bomb of flavor inside of a tomato. Apples. Apples are something that we think of during the fall. Warming spices, nutmeg and cinnamon and clove. And certain meals belonged at certain times of the year. We know that we're going to be eating heartier meals during the winter to keep us warm, to hold the fat on so that we can do that hard labor outside when it's super cold. We know that we're going to lean out during the summer. We're going to crave much lighter things like watermelon and salads, maybe some fresh beans. But now we get that stuff all year round. So we've lost connection with the seasons. We've lost connection to how to eat in rhythm with the seasons and pay attention to what our bodies actually need. When everything is always available to us, nothing feels special. And you might not have ever thought of it that way, but I bet if you start paying attention, you're going to start to notice that. And when nothing feels real or rare, it's very easy to tune out and feel that disconnection. Not long ago, so many people knew where their food came from. They were friends with the farmers down the street. They were friends with somebody that you personally knew that grew your food, that brought it to your house, that you could shake hands with. You could look them in the eye. You could know how that food was actually grown. You could step into their house. You could see their farm. You could see the way that the animals were raised. Not anymore. That is a rarity. If you have the opportunity to know the people that grow your food, to care about where your food comes from, to meet somebody, a real farmer or a real rancher that has an open door policy, you are ahead of the game. It is critical that you're friends with the people that grow your food. It is paramount that you have somebody on speed dial that you can call and ask questions if you choose to decide to start growing your own food or having your own chickens or maybe a dairy cow. What this does is it builds trust. It creates appreciation for the ingredients that we are cooking with. We understand that real people have invested their time, their blood, their sweat, their tears in creating something that is truly grown with love. There's alchemy in that. Today, food travels so far. It travels over typically 3,000 miles to reach our tables. We use so many fossil fuels. We require so much travel time between when something is picked and when we actually eat it that the food loses its nutritional value. But if you have the ability to grow your own food, if you know the people that are growing your food, typically your food is picked that morning and you're picking it up that afternoon. So you're getting the best, freshest ingredients that have the most nutrient density to feed your body, to feed your family, to light you up so that you can put your best foot forward when stepping out into the world. So this is what I want for you. I think perhaps the greatest loss of all isn't about the ingredients. It's about the connection that we have to people. It's about the traditions that it took to make a meal from scratch. It's about the preparation and the recipes and the stories and the tables that were filled with family and neighbors. And it's also a reason that we choose to gather around the table. People need connection. We need connection to our food. We need connection to our families. We need connection to our communities. Today, schedules are so crowded. Meals are being eaten in cars, shoveling food into our mouths before we get to the next meeting that we have to attend. We're eating at our desks. We're eating in front of TV screens or computer screens. And while there are certainly times when that's necessary, something really important happens when we make the time to gather around the table, to connect with our family and our friends and our loved ones around a home-cooked meal. And when we put a home-cooked meal and conversation in front of our routines, we get healthier, we relax. The stress goes down. We're able to settle into our seats. We're able to practice the art of presence, and we're able to come back together, to have real meaningful conversation, to let our guards down, to make memories, to set an example for our kids. That's what we want. That is the starting point of what real food does for us as a community. When we talk about traditional food pathways, we're not talking about living in the past. We're talking about bringing those traditions into the present moment. We're not arguing that everything used to be better way back when. Every single generation has faced challenges. Every generation innovates. The goal isn't necessarily to go backwards, but it is to remember what is worth keeping. Traditional food pathways remind us that food is our connection to the land. It's our connection to our communities. It reminds us that seasons matter, that recipes carry stories. They remind us that meals can be more than just eating as fast as we can to shovel those calories into our mouths to make it to the next meeting. That's not what eating and food and traditional food pathways is all about. Most importantly, traditions remind us that food has always been the bridge to bring people back together. There are two things that always bring people together in this world. One is a smile, and the other one is a home-cooked meal. Anywhere you go in the world, you're going to be brought together with real food, with good conversation, with good people. And a smile is what ties it all together. The good news is that reconnecting doesn't require a huge lifestyle shift. You don't need a farm. You don't need a garden necessarily. You don't need to spend hours cooking every single day. You can definitely start small. I think that when we pay attention to what is naturally grown abundantly in our own backyards, that's always a really great place to start. If we choose one fruit or one vegetable that's in season and we learn how to build a meal around it, that is a great place to start. Super simple to do. And then just pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to the difference that you feel when you're preparing that meal, because you are preparing it with intention. You're thinking about the ingredients that you're putting into that dish. You're contemplating why that particular ingredient was chosen. Why is it in season right now? One thing that you can do, if you haven't already, is to get involved with your local farmers markets, to just walk around one Saturday, look at the produce that is being harvested, shake hands with the person that's growing those ingredients. Maybe purchase something if you feel inspired to do so. Go home and rinse it, clean it, prepare it, make a really simple meal, and then introduce it to your family and tell them what you chose to make that day. See how that meal lands differently for your family than any other meal that you would normally make. Maybe you're used to purchasing all of your vegetables out of the freezer section at the grocery store, or purchasing your meat from the meat counter when you go to Safeway. But if you can find somebody that intentionally raises and cultivates those proteins or grows that produce, and then you get to shake hands with them, you get to go home and prepare that meal, your food is going to taste different. The energy in that meal is going to taste different. So that's what I want for you. That's what I want you to try. I think you're going to love it. It's one small step that we can all take towards bringing things back to the basics, learning to do things the old-fashioned way, learning to build community through food, through farmers. If I could offer you one thing to try this week, it would be to invite somebody over to share a meal with you. So it might be your neighbor, it might be your friend, it might be a family member. The food does not need to be elaborate, but it's really about setting the stage, the set and the setting, something that we talked about earlier in the week. We want to talk about set and setting and how to make the people that we care about feel comfortable when they come over to our houses. Food is never just food. It is the thing that connects us. It's the things that connect us to the land, to the people that grew the food. It's the seasons that produced it. It's the people who prepared it and the people that we get to share it with. Convenience has this way of giving us gifts, right? We get the gift of time. We get the gift of flexibility, but it is perhaps the most meaningful thing that we can do when we don't think about food as convenience any longer. Maybe we think about food as community, as tradition, as hospitality, as gathering together, because these things are all things that actually take time. And they're worth it, because at the end of the day, the goal isn't simply to eat, it's to nourish ourselves, to nourish our spirits, and to nourish the people that we care about. So if you would like more reflections, I would implore you, please join our newsletter. Please sign up for our Substack. Dive deep into traditional food pathways. Each week we explore real food, traditional foodways, old-fashioned hospitality, and of course the lessons that the old ways still have to teach us. I want to remind you that food is and always will be our medium for connection, and I will see you next time.